Hey there. I wanted to take some time today to talk about cold calling because I know this is one of the possibly most intimidating sales skills for SDRs and BDRs, but it is also one of the most crucial skills to develop in order to help yourself to become a top performing account executive. So, because it is so challenging for many, what people often want to do is to avoid it. And I think that has been particularly easy in the previous few years, considering many of us were working at home during the pandemic. So we didn't have the pressure to cold call because we were in the office. And also, many people were not actually accessible by phone anymore by virtue of not being in the office themselves. So because this is such an important thing that so many people struggle with, and I get many questions about this, I wanted to talk about a couple of things that will make it a little bit easier for you to approach your cold calls and to be successful with them. So firstly, a few things to consider when cold calling. The aim of your cold call is to sell time, not to sell your product or to sell anything else. It is simply to secure more time where you can discuss your offering in more detail, where you have enough time to actually articulate the value. So many people get caught up trying to sell a very complex product or service in like 30 seconds or 1 minute. So don't forget, your cold call, you're aiming to sell time. You're aiming to secure a follow-up meeting where you can discuss your product or your offering. Another thing to consider is try putting yourself in the prospect's shoes, okay? They are receiving a call from a completely random person who they have never spoken to and don't know anything about. When we receive calls like that, it makes us suspicious because we don't trust things that we don't know. What you want to do as a salesperson is alleviate that anxiety and worry immediately, as quickly as possible. And so that is what we're going to talk about in a moment. Another thing to consider is time, okay? So everybody is busy in this day and age. We could all do it more time. And if we had more time, we would probably not spend it on work calls, but with our friends and family doing things we enjoy. So you, as a complete stranger calling this prospect, have not earned the right to any of their valuable time. Therefore, we need to remember to be respectful of that, to be brief, to get to the point, and to try to lead with value. And that brings me on to my next point, okay? Let's remember that the battle for attention right now is more fierce than ever. Everybody is trying to sell us something. If we turn on any social media, we see ads. If we turn on YouTube, we see ads. If we turn on the TV, we see ads. There's signs and billboards around us. People are cold calling. Everybody is trying to sell something. And so you need to do something that stands out. And one of the ways that you can stand out is by leading with value and showing your prospect how your product or service could potentially help them. You're not saying that it's the best thing ever, that it's going to solve all their problems, that it's definitely going to help, but that based on actual data and previous experience with other similar prospects to these people, you think that your product could help them and you want to investigate that. So why then is prospecting in cold calling so difficult? Well, to be honest with you, it really comes down to our human instincts and emotions. And I know that might sound ridiculous, but hear me out. Everybody is nervous about the unexpected thing that might happen on a cold call. That is all salespeople. Your prospects are instantly defensive and suspicious of you because they don't know you, they don't trust you, and they don't know what you actually want from them. So if you are actually lucky enough to connect with the right person, which as we know happens very rarely, their suspicion and lack of trust is conveyed to you, and that makes you uncomfortable. And so all of a sudden they're defensive, you're uncomfortable, your mind goes into almost a fight or flight type situation. You just want to get out of that situation. You struggle to be logical, you struggle to remember your pitch, you find it difficult to say what it is that you intended to say, and usually after a disastrous cold call like that, it happens almost in a blur. You come off the call and you think to yourself, what just happened? Why didn't I say this? Why didn't I say that? And ultimately you feel defeated. So the way that we can address that is by realizing that nothing unexpected actually happens on a cold call. For the most part, all cold calls are essentially the same, or at least they have the same structure, even if there's a slightly different conversation in each. So let's think about this as the ideal structure, okay? If you are lucky enough for the correct person you're looking for to actually answer, they pick up, they say hello, and you state your name and where you're calling from. Immediately. They don't recognize your voice, they don't recognize your name, they don't recognize your company, they are suspicious and defensive. You know that this is going to happen, so this doesn't make you feel uncomfortable. In fact, this is what you were expecting. You can alleviate that by simply restating your name confidently, followed by the reason that you are calling this person. Okay, so you have about 5 to 10 seconds to alleviate that discomfort that they're feeling. And at the end of that, I would recommend leaving space for them to encourage you or to grant you permission to share more. Very often, this is a common mistake that, particularly for me, I've seen sales development and business development people make, where once the person answers, they want to get their pitch across, so they speak quickly, they have a high-pitched voice, and they try to get their whole value proposition in before the prospect has another chance to speak. But this is a conversation, so you need to take your turn to speak, 5 or 10 seconds, and you do need to pause and have the confidence and the trust that what you're saying is valuable enough that they will either give you permission to speak more or give you an objection. So some of the things that you can do in order to try to get that permission to speak more is to say something that they will likely want to agree with. So for example, hi John, the reason I'm calling is I know you are the head of X department in X company. During my research of your company, I recently read that you guys, your team, actually won the award for best whatever in your space. Is that correct? People are generally proud of achievements, so even if they don't want to talk to you, they will still want to say, yes, we won that award, but like, who is this? What do you want? Why are you calling me? So on, so forth. Even if it is not a friendly response, if they ask you a question, they are giving you permission to speak again. So either say something good that they would like to agree with, or say something controversial that will force them to disagree with you, such as, hey John, I noticed that you are the head of X department, and during my research I read that you were the worst performing team in the department last year. Is that correct? And he will probably want to provide some kind of excuse or defense to what you said, and then still say, anyway, what's this call about? Now, you have to be pretty confident to go the controversial route, so consider that, because you're going to maybe get a reaction from people. But if they give you a permission to speak, so what's this? Why are you calling? Then what you want to do is you want to tell them why you think you can add value to them. So simply saying, well, the reason for my call is we are working with a lot of similar organizations to you, where we've been able to help them to increase X, Y, and Z metrics, which I know from my research are important to you. In fact, an example of one such customer that we're working for is name of customer, who is in the same industry or the same region and likely a competitor of this company. And since working with us, they have been able to achieve this, this, and this in only 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and so on. I believe that we could add similar value to you. Now, I know that I called you out of the blue today, so I'm not looking to take up any of your time right now. However, I wanted to see if you would be open to scheduling a 15 or 20-minute conversation with me in the coming days to figure out together what is important to you guys as a business and whether or not we can add value there. If you can get them to actually agree to that, then I would advise securing that next step on the call right now. So saying, okay, do you have your calendar open? Let's see if you have some availability on Tuesday morning, 9 a.m., for example, and have them verbally agree to that. Because if they verbally agree to it, they're much more likely to follow through and show up. Now, of course, all cold calls do not go like that, and very often you will get multiple objections actually throughout a cold call. And again, I would actually encourage you to expect those objections and to be ready for them as opposed to being surprised by them. I will do another video which focuses specifically on objection handling and the kinds of objections that you are likely to encounter during a cold call. But for now, I'll just say thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you very soon.